while millions of people are currently screaming at their TVs, painting their faces orange and feeling emotionally destroyed because 11 strangers lost a game. There's a massive group of people who just don't care. They're watching the chaos from the sidelines, wondering why everyone is so upset over a ball. And according to neuroscience, if you're one of those people, your brain might actually be wired differently. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see the sports-obsessed people in your life and how you see yourself. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Not caring about sports doesn't make you boring. It doesn't mean you lack passion. And it definitely doesn't mean something is wrong with you. But there is something fascinating happening in your head that's worlds apart from the 60% of people who follow sports like a religion. Let's start with the big question. Why do so many people care so much? Well, humans are tribal creatures. For thousands of years, being part of a group meant survival. Your tribe protected you from predators, helped you hunt, and kept you alive. Fast forward to today, and sports are basically modern tribes, just with better merchandise. When a fan watches their team, their brain releases oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that makes you love your family or your dog. Their brain literally tricks them into thinking these millionaire athletes are part of their actual clan. But here's where it gets interesting for the rest of us. People who don't obsess over sports often have what psychologists call lower tribal instincts. Your identity isn't as tightly tied to a group. You're more individualistic. A 2019 study actually found that people with low sports interest showed way less us versus them thinking. Translation? You don't automatically hate someone just because they're wearing a different colored shirt. Now, what happens inside a sports fanatic's brain during a game is legitimately wild. You know that Christmas morning feeling? That's dopamine firing in your brain. Sports fans get that same hit every single play. Every pass, every shot, every near miss. It's a microdose of addiction. fMRI scans show that watching your team activates the same reward centers as gambling. And the kicker? The uncertainty is the drug. Because you don't know if they'll win, the dopamine keeps flowing. Psychology calls this intermittent reinforcement. It's the exact same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. If you don't care about sports, your dopamine system simply isn't triggered by vicarious competition. And get this, it might be in your DNA. Research from the University of Chicago suggests that variations in your dopamine receptor genes can predict how much you care about spectatorship. Your indifference to the Lakers might literally be written in your genetic code. Have you ever noticed how sports fans talk? When the team wins, they say, "We won." But when the team loses, they say, "They lost." Psychologists call this burgeoning, basking in reflected glory. People who aren't sports fans usually don't do this. You're more consistent in your self-concept. You don't need an external victory from a stranger to feel like a winner. Your self-esteem is more stable because it isn't dependent on things completely outside your control. Now, I'm not saying one way is better. Actually, sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They practice caring deeply about other people's struggles, even if those people are strangers in jerseys. So why don't you feel that? It's about empathy allocation. We all have a limited capacity for caring. If you aren't a sports fan, you're likely directing that empathy elsewhere. Social causes, personal relationships, or creative projects. A 2021 study found that people with low sports interest scored much higher in openness to experience. You're getting your transcendence from art, music, nature, or big ideas. You're seeking the same reward, meaning, and connection. You're just finding it in a different forest. It all comes down to how you experience meaning. Sports fans find meaning in the narrative, the underdog story, the rivalry, the comeback. But for you, that randomness might feel meaningless. You might think, why invest in an outcome I can't control, performed by people I don't know? And you're right. But so are they. It's just two different ways to satisfy the human need for story. One person finds an epic tale in a championship run. You find it in a novel, a scientific discovery, or a deep conversation. There's also a radical benefit to not caring. You're often more present. You aren't spending 3 hours every Sunday experiencing someone else's struggle. You're engaged in your own. So, what's the takeaway? If the big game feels like a big bore to you, you aren't missing out on some fundamental human experience. You're just calibrated differently. Your tribal instincts, your reward system, and your empathy are all pointing in a different direction. The next time someone asks, "Did you see the game?" and you couldn't care less, remember, you're not broken. You're not boring. You're just playing a different game. And yours might just have higher stakes. If you want more psychology videos that explain your personality in ways school never bothered to, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button right now, because our next video might just reveal something about yourself you've never realized.